All right, let's dive into a question that seems to break all the rules of male sexuality. We're talking about the so-called cuckold instinct, getting turned on by the idea of your partner with someone else. Is this just a bizarre glitch in our wiring, or could it actually be an intentional feature designed by evolution? The answer might just change how you think about desire itself. And that, right there, is the core of the paradox. I mean, from a purely evolutionary standpoint, a man's number one biological job is to make sure his genes get passed on. So why on earth would his body respond with arousal to the single biggest threat to that goal, the chance of raising another guy's kid? It makes absolutely no sense. Or does it? Now, before you write this off as some fringe niche thing, get a load of this number. A huge study by Dr. Justin Lehmiller found that a staggering 58% of men have fantasized about their partner with another man. That is not a small number. That's a clear majority. So this isn't some weird anomaly. It's a fundamental part of male psychology that we really need to understand. To solve this mystery, we have to go way back in time. We need to visit a battlefield you've never seen, but one that has been shaping male biology for millions and millions of years. Welcome to the invisible evolutionary war. The key to this entire puzzle is an idea called sperm competition, which was really laid out by a biologist named Jeffrey Parker way back in 1970. And it is exactly what it sounds like. See, the race isn't over after sex. A war continues at a microscopic level inside the female reproductive tract. And understanding this one concept, well, it changes everything. So take a look at where we humans fit in. We aren't like gorillas, where one male dominates and faces very little competition. And we're not like chimps, where it's a total free-for-all with intense competition. Nope, we're somewhere in the middle. And what that tells evolutionary biologists is that for our ancestors, female infidelity was a consistent enough problem that the male body had to evolve a whole specific toolkit just to deal with it. Okay, so now let's move on to the hard evidence. We're talking about the ancient programming that's been left behind in the male body itself. This is where we can actually see the literal physical tools that evolution built to fight this invisible war. So get this, the male body is like unconsciously keeping score of the risk. Groundbreaking research by Baker and Bellis showed that the more time a man spends away from his partner, the more sperm he ejaculates the next time they're together. And more recently, other studies have found that men who think their partners have more male friends, well, they produce more concentrated sperm. The body is literally automatically adjusting its strategy based on the perceived threat of a rival. And the evidence isn't just physiological, it's anatomical. It's built right in. This quote from psychologist Gordon Gallup is pretty provocative for a reason. His research argued that the very shape of the human penis didn't just evolve to deliver sperm, it evolved to remove the sperm of rivals. So here's how it works. That distinctive rim at the head of the penis, the coronal ridge, basically acts like a scoop. Gallup's work showed it's incredibly effective at displacing any rival semen that might be in there. And what kinds of behaviors do couples often report after they've been apart for a while? Deeper, more vigorous sex. It's like the body's ancient programming is kicking in, trying to clear the field before making its own play. Okay, we've seen the physical evidence. Now we get to the heart of it all, the mind. Why in the world would this threat signal, the potential presence of a rival, actually trigger sexual arousal? This is the central twist in our whole story. And here is the plot twist. We tend to think of jealousy and arousal as total opposites, right? But evolution sees them as two sides of the very same coin. Jealousy is the defensive alarm system. It screams, guard your mate. But arousal? That's the offensive response. It says, hey, your genes might be at risk, so ramp up your reproductive effort and get ready to compete. They're two parts of the same solution to the same ancient problem. And you know what? We have some pretty objective data that backs this up. Dr. Nicholas Pound analyzed pornography sales and found something fascinating. Even though men often say they're most interested in scenes with one man and multiple women, the actual sales data shows that content with multiple men and one woman, a direct visual cue of sperm competition, actually ranks higher. Our actions often reveal a deeper attraction to these competitive situations than we might even admit to ourselves. So what is going on in the brain to make all this happen? Well, it comes down to dopamine. Now, dopamine isn't just about pleasure, it's the molecule of wanting, of motivation, of seeking things out. And here's the kicker. Your brain's reward system doesn't really care if a trigger is positive or negative. It responds to intensity. And a high-stakes, stressful, novel scenario like potential infidelity, that is intensely stimulating, and it can flood the brain with dopamine that gets easily channeled straight into sexual arousal. Okay, we have reviewed a lot of evidence here, from evolutionary theory to our own physiology, anatomy, and even brain chemistry. So I think it's time. Let's bring it all together and deliver the final verdict on our big question. Let's just walk through the logic step by step. Step 1. The challenge was consistent infidelity in our ancestral past. So what would happen to a guy who got jealous and just shut down sexually? Well, he'd lose the sperm war every single time. The winning strategy was to respond to that threat with more sexual effort, not less. And over thousands of generations, natural selection favored the men who had this competitive arousal response. So, the verdict is in. This strange, seemingly paradoxical response isn't a glitch. It is not a mistake in your wiring. It's a feature. It's an ancient adaptive mechanism that was designed to maximize reproductive success in a very competitive world. So if it's so ancient, why is it still such a big part of our psychology today? Well, it's because the wiring is exactly the same, but the triggers have changed. For our ancestors, the trigger was the real physical threat of another man. For us today, that same ancient circuitry can be fired up by purely symbolic cues, a fantasy, a scene in a movie, or just a stray thought. It's the same old program running on new modern software. So we've made our case. It's a feature, not a bug. A piece of our evolved past operating in the present. The final question then is really a personal one for you to think about. What does knowing that this complex, sometimes confusing response was intentionally designed by evolution, what does that reveal to you about the deep and often paradoxical architecture of your own desire?